Foreign policy ministers condemn Israel over recent attacks on UN peacekeeping troops. At least 4 soldiers have been killed in a Hezbollah drone attack on an army base in central Israel.
Iceland's Prime Minister dissolves the ruling three-party coalition, saying infighting makes it impossible to govern.
The leaders of 6 Western Balkan countries arrived in Germany for a summit aimed at bringing them closer to the European Union.
The EU's top foreign policy boss has criticised Israel over its recent attacks on UN peacekeeping troops in Lebanon. Josep Borrell's remarks echo the strongest condemnation voiced across the bloc regarding the Middle East. Speaking to reporters in Luxembourg, he said EU member states agreed to a statement demanding Israel stop attacking UNIFIL.
It's completely unacceptable attacking United Nations troops. And I want to remind everybody that it's not the Secretary General of United Nations who decides about this mission staying or not staying. It's the Security Council who has to take these kind of decisions. So stop blaming Secretary Guterres.
Israeli troops forced their way into one of UNIFIL's bases in Lebanon over the weekend, destroying the main gate and injuring at least 15 soldiers. Borrell's criticism was echoed by Dutch officials.
Yeah, I've called the Israeli Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, yesterday, and I have expressed that this is unacceptable and this should stop, and it should be investigated as soon as possible. The IDF has also indicated that it would investigate itself these shootings and incidents. This has to stop.
The incident took place after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused the UN peacekeeping mission of providing Hezbollah terrorists with human shields.
At least 4 soldiers have been killed and around 60 others severely wounded in a Hezbollah drone attack on an army base in central Israel. It's the deadliest strike by the militant group on Israeli territory since the IDF launched its ground operation into Lebanon nearly 2 weeks ago.
הזירה הייתה קשה, הפגיעת כטב"ם גרמה לנפגעי גם הדף וגם רסס רב שהיה, פציעות קשות, הפצועים נזקקו לטיפול מציל חיים, חסימות כלי דם, טיפול תרופתי מציל חיים ופונו במהירות לבתי חולים.
Hezbollah said the attack near Binyamina was in retaliation for Israeli strikes on Beirut on Thursday that killed 22 people. The group also said it launched dozens of missiles to occupy Israeli air defense systems, which set off air raid sirens further north in the city of Haifa. Hezbollah is ideologically aligned with the Gaza-based militant group Hamas and began firing at Israel a day after the war in the Strip started in October last year. Those almost daily exchanges of fire have displaced tens of thousands of people on both sides of the border. Israel has carried out increasingly heavy strikes into parts of Lebanon far from the southern border, including the capital Beirut, and at the end of September launched a ground offensive. It's estimated there are 15,000 Israeli soldiers operating in Lebanon. The health ministry says more than 1,400 people have been killed in Lebanon since September, but doesn't say how many were Hezbollah fighters. At least 58 people have been killed in rocket attacks on Israel, nearly half of them soldiers.
China held large-scale military exercises around Taiwan and its islands in what it called a warning against Taiwan's independence. The drills come days after Taiwan's President Lai gave a speech on Taiwan's National Day. He said China has no right to represent the island and declared his commitment to resist annexation. Taiwan's defense ministry condemns the drills as a provocation and say they are prepared to retaliate.
空军这种非理性的挑衅军演，不但会危及台海的安全情势，无益于两岸关系的良性发展，更严重地破坏印太区域的安全情势。 威胁以规则为基础的国际秩序。
China have increased its military exercises around Taiwan in recent years. In May, similar large-scale drills followed Lai's inauguration. China has previously said Taiwan's independence is a dead end and that annexation by Beijing is a historical inevitability.
The European Commission wants Chinese online marketplace Temu to clarify what it is doing to prevent the sale of illegal products on its website. Temu is among a group of companies such as Amazon, Apple and Shein that have received requests for information from the European Commission. The company has until the 21st of October to reply to the Commission's questions. For months, Temu has been obliged to comply with the European Digital Services Act as it was designated a very large online platform with more than 45 million EU users in May. The Association of European Retailers warns of unfair competition.
I think as a consumer, you should be able to trust that the products that you buy online are safe, that your rights are respected. And I think this is where we see the problem, that these players don't respect the rules. And that in the end, you might think as a consumer you have a deal, but then you might not can have the product repaired. There might be some kind of high levels of chemicals in there, which is bad for your health. It might be, made with forced labor.
In a statement provided to Euronews, Temu says it's cooperating with the European Commission's request. Consumer safety is a top priority and we welcome feedback from all stakeholders, a company spokesperson said. But if Brussels decides the shopping platform does not comply with the legislation, it may impose a financial penalty.
The heads of 6 Western Balkan states were welcomed to Berlin by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz during a summit aimed at forging closer ties between those nations and the European Union. The aim of the summit is to gradually bring Serbia, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro and North Macedonia closer to the EU. President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, as well as representatives from 9 EU member states and international organisations, also took part in the talks. An action plan for a common regional market and a new mobility agreement, including access to higher education, is set to be signed at the summit. EU officials have said in the past that the war in Ukraine and other geopolitical concerns highlight the importance of a strategic partnership between the EU and the Balkans.
People in Iceland could be heading back to the polls in November after Prime Minister Bjarni Benediktsson announced the dissolution of the country's governing coalition. Speaking at a surprise press conference in Reykjavik, Benediktsson cited infighting between the 3 political parties that make up the coalition as his reason for ending it. Iceland's coalition government is made up of Benediktsson's Conservative Independence Party, the centre-right Progressive Party and the leftist Greens.
Það uppi ágreiningur aðgerðir í hælisleitendamálum, það hefur verið opinbert. Við höfum verið í ágreiningi lengi í stjórninni framtíðarsýn varðandi orkunýtingu og nú það svo að tillögur frá umhverfis orku- og loftslagsráðherra hafa verið fastar í ríkisstjórninni nokkurt skeið.
Benediktsson said parliamentary elections are slated to take place on the 30th of November if President Halla Tómasdóttir accepts the motion to dissolve parliament. But one member of the coalition said the decision had come as a surprise.
Það hefði verið sameiginlegur skilningur okkar að það mikilvægasta væri efnahagsmálin. Ég vil líka nefna bara húsnæðismálin og málefni venjulegs fólks bara ná endum saman. Ég hefði haldið að það væri svona kannski brýnasta verkefnið en nú kemur það í ljós í yfirferð forsætisráðherra að það eru önnur mál.
The ruling coalition in power since November 2021 has faltered under a raft of problems, particularly after a series of volcanic eruptions in the country forced thousands to evacuate their homes. That put more pressure on an economy already dealing with high inflation and rising interest rates. Kamala Harris has used a campaign rally in North Carolina to slam Donald Trump for spreading misinformation about the Biden administration's hurricane response. The Democratic presidential nominee praised the heroes all around who are helping residents without regard to political affiliation. She blasted those who tried to gain political advantage from other people's misfortune, saying it wasn't the time to incite fear, adding that's not what leaders do. Trump made a series of false claims after Helene struck in late September, including saying that Washington was intentionally withholding aid from Republicans in need across the Southeast. While Harris was speaking in Greenville, Biden was in Florida to inspect hurricane-damaged areas, his second visit this month. The president said he was thankful that Milton wasn't as bad as officials had anticipated, but that it was still a cataclysmic event for many people. With only 22 days until the 5th of November presidential election, the race is as close as ever. A new CNN poll of polls average shows no clear leader, with an average of 50% of voters expected to support Harris and 47% backing Trump.
Three US-based men won the Nobel Prize in Economics for studies on how institutions are formed and affect prosperity. Daron Acemoglu was amongst the trio of winners and said over a video call he never expected the accolade.
You dream of having a good career, but this is over and on top of that, so it's a great surprise and honor.
The research explored how different colonial strategies led to institutional patterns in Europe that have persisted over time.